Thank you. Welcome back to the February 9th, 2021 meeting of the Board of Education of the Hauppauge Union Free School District. We're back after executive session. Please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Number 4 on the agenda is the Superintendent's Report. Dr. O'Hara.
Good evening, everyone. Just a brief update tonight on our COVID-19 numbers in the district. Since school opened full-time in September, we've had a total of 189 cases. Of those cases, 135 have been students and 54 have been faculty or staff. I'm encouraged. Over the last week or so, we've had a decline in numbers. I sent a letter out today where we've only had 2 cases that we're aware of among students, faculty, and staff since last Friday. So that news is on, that encourages me. Still, I want to remind the community to be very careful. Do not let your guard down. We have variants from South Africa and variants from the United Kingdom that are potentially more contagious, potentially more dangerous. So now is not the time to relax. The vaccine is giving us a potential light at the end of the tunnel, but we still have to remain vigilant. Everybody, please be very safe and cautious still. And just a reminder that our schools will be switching to virtual learning or distance learning for all students the week following winter recess. So that's been put in letters several times. And a quick reminder about travel restrictions and testing requirements. I sent a letter today that included a link to the New York State Department of Health that gives those requirements, explains the rules for travel to states contiguous with New York, and it explains the testing requirements for states that are not contiguous with New York. So I would ask the community to please visit that website and be aware. We've had a couple of examples of people traveling and coming back to school without the appropriate testing, and the guidelines are very clear. If you do not have a test when you leave the place you traveled to, and then another negative test when you come home, you have to quarantine for the full 10-day period. So we don't want to see students having to unnecessarily quarantine. That's it for me. Thank you, Mr. Barchet.
Thank you. Dr. O'Hara, of the 135 students that have tested positive, do we have a breakdown as to in-school students versus students that are distance learning?
Yeah, we have a breakdown. A rough number, roughly 63 of the 135 positive cases among students are students that are in our schools for in-person instruction, and approximately 72 of the 135 cases are students that are on distance learning. As part of the requirements for the school COVID report card, we have to report positive cases, whether it's a teacher, a staff member, an administrator, a student who's in school, or a student who's on distance learning.
And what percentage of our kids are on distance learning?
Roughly 18% roughly. So if you round that up to 20%, we could say that we have, roughly 2,700, 2,750 students in school every day, 2,750. Right.
So, I mean, it's fascinating, I guess, that we have many more kids in the school, but less raw numbers of positive cases, and also percentage-wise, much less in school than what's going on outside of the school.
Well, I think these numbers. First of all, I think when you consider, I don't even know how to do the math, to be honest with you, on all the interactions that take place in school buildings on a given day. So all the possibilities for people to interact and to transmit a virus during flu season, for example, or the common cold, to have 189 cases in total since September, and being one of the few school districts that have most of our population in every day, I think is a testament to everybody's teamwork and cooperation. I think it's a testament to the masks and to the social distancing and to the one-way traffic signs we have in our schools and to the plastic shields that we purchased and to the cleaning that our custodial staff is doing. It's it's been stressful and it's been tiring, but that's why my letters to the community, we just keep trying to communicate, let's stay the course. We're on the right path to getting out in front of this virus and staying there.
Yeah, I mean, just looking at the numbers, it's overwhelmingly clear that in our district, at least, kids are safer in school than at home by a wide margin. So kudos to administration, kudos to the teachers, kudos to the custodial staff, as you said. Our model, we're one of the few districts that did it, but our model, we have proof of concept here that what we did was the right thing, and I think our kids are going to benefit as a result of being in school 5 days a week. So kudos to everyone.
Yeah, and I just want to emphasize to the community to please be careful over the winter recess. If you have travel plans or you think you might be socializing, please do not let your guard down. Take the mask wearing seriously, no matter where you may be. This virus remains invisible and silent, and it's different than a flu. In years past, if a student or an adult showed up and had a runny nose or watery eyes or a cough, it's very clear we could say, you don't look so good, why don't you go home? But with this virus, we don't have that ability because the data is clear that people transmit it before they're symptomatic. So that's why this virus is so sneaky. That's also why I had the reminder in today's letter about the restrictions and the guidelines for travel. So we're asking families to please adhere to those. If you have travel plans, please plan to be tested while you're on your trip 3 days before you leave to return home. And then you have to be tested again on the 4th day after you arrive back to your home. It's all on that link, but it's everybody staying vigilant and cooperating is really important. And the data is also out there about how students respond to this virus. And it's encouraging that students seem to handle it better than some adults. But our job as a school district is to keep everybody safe. And we have a lot of adults in our school buildings every day that we need to keep safe also.
All right, thank you, Dr. O'Hara.
You're welcome.
Number 5 on the agenda, recognitions and awards. 5A, number 1, Suffolk Zone PE Students of the Year.
So we have 2 students. We have Alicia Inkles and we have Alex O. The board, we'd like to recognize them tonight. The Suffolk Zone Award is presented to the most outstanding male and female physical education students from each school district. And I'm going to ask Mr. Tasman to fill us in a little bit because he's our resident expert on all things physical education. You have to unmute yourself. He's the expert on physical ed, but not so.
Thank you, Dr. O'Hara. You missed my whole speech. I was muted, but thank you, Dr. O'Hara. It's my honor to have this opportunity to present this prestigious award to Alicia and Alex. They should be very proud of this accomplishment. In the many years I served as an athletic director for Hauppauge schools, this award is given to top students who participate in physical education at the highest level, but more importantly, they're students who are positive role models for all other students. They have the must-haves for this award requires that all students be cooperative, be honest, have self-confidence, be attentive to the teacher, enthusiastic, and just an overall role model to not only the students in the physical education class, but also the entire student body. So it's an incredible honor, a prestigious award. Alicia and Alex, you and your family should be very proud. Congratulations.
Absolutely. Okay. Number 5C on the agenda, adoption of minutes from the community meeting of January 26th, 2021. Mr. Scrito makes the motion, Mr. Fortmeyer seconds. Any discussion? Mr. Barchet votes aye. Mr. Scrito?
Aye.
Scrito votes aye. Mr. Fortmeyer?
Aye.
Mr. Fortmeyer votes aye. Dr. Craffa?
Aye.
Dr. Craffa votes aye. Mr. Kiley?
Aye.
Mr. Kiley votes aye. Mr. Buscarino?
Aye.
Mr. Buscarino votes aye, and Mrs. Weisberg?
Aye.
Mrs. Weisberg votes aye. The minutes are approved 7-0. Are there any matters on the consent agenda that members would like to have removed? And with that, I'll take a motion to approve the consent agenda in toto. Mr. Fortmeyer makes the motion. Mr. Scarito seconds. Any discussion? Mr. Barchet votes aye. Mr. Scarito?
Aye.
Mr. Scarito votes aye. Mr. Fortmeyer?
Aye.
Mr. Fortmeyer votes aye. Dr. Craffa?
Aye.
Dr. Craffa votes aye. Mr. Kiley?
Aye.
Mr. Kiley votes aye. Mr. Buscarino?
Aye.
Mr. Buscarino votes aye. And Mrs. Weisberg?
Aye. Yes.
Mrs. Weisberg votes aye. Consent agenda is approved 7-0. There are no policies on our agenda tonight. As far as the committees go, I'm disbanding the Whipperwill committee as that committee has fulfilled the purpose for which it was formed. There are no discussion matters on the agenda. Do any board members have new business?
Mr. Barchet, I just want to ask Mrs. Pirro if we have a handle on, are we positive or negative for state aid coming into Hauppauge School District, please?
Well, so far we are going to be we're in a good situation right now because last year, if you recall, we've kind of under budgeted what we expected for aid this year due to COVID. So far, it seems that we're supposed to be being made whole this year is what we did not anticipate. I won't know that for sure till all the money, so to speak, is in our hand at the end of this fiscal year for this year. And next year, Cuomo, honestly is backfilling with more federal stimulus aid. So we have to wait to see if that package is approved and if they release it from the federal government to give it to the states to then give it to the districts. So we're kind of in a similar situation, although with them making us whole in the current year, the 2021 year, it looks a little bit more promising. But there's a lot of pieces in the air for all the business officials that are kind of grappling with all the state numbers that they're throwing at us. So it looks promising, but I not putting my name on anything quite yet. We have a few more weeks until the governor's proposal gets approved or changed by the end of March. So
Jackie, I read in Newsday, I think it was in Newsday anyway, it seems like our district and Comac were both in the green. Well, that's what the chart said anyway, as far as state aid goes, meaning we weren't going to see a reduction. And Smithtown was deep red, a few percentage points they were going to have less in aid. What is the driver or the main driver of that kind of disparity from neighboring districts?
it could be a little bit of anything, which sounds really silly. It depends on how a district completes their paperwork as far as state numbers go in the fall. So to be as simplistic as I can, in the fall of each year, a district reports its last year's numbers and projects forward where they think they're going to go. So in the fall of last year, when we reported the transportation numbers, for example, since we are a district that did not pay our contractor, I did not budget for those numbers having been spent because we didn't spend them. I don't know what other districts put in their figures for their projections to run off of. Smithtown's run great. They have a great business official over there. I'm not sure what their piece is, but it could be something as simple as one of their programs could have changed. They could have could be a homeless thing, could be anything that they may even expect that reduction. Could be debt falling off, could be bonds, it could be anything. It's not as simple as state aid. You can't compare apples to orange, different districts across the board that way. It could be any number of reasons why it dipped down. And they may have planned for it. They may know it's coming. It may not be a shocker, believe it or not, as much as it looks to us when we compare district to district.
Thank you.
Mr. Barchet, I had one more question, if I may.
Mr. Scarito?
Dr. O'Hara, I also read in the paper that a lot of teachers are possibly retiring and a possible teacher shortage. How are we doing in Hauppauge as far as that goes, sir, please?
I could say proudly that since I've been here, and Mr. Tasman's been in the position a couple of years before I arrived, that we have no shortage of applicants.
Yep, I agree.
Excellent. Any other?
Yeah, a follow-up to Mr. Scarito's question.
Yes, Mr. Hauppauge.
Same Newsday article with regard to teachers retiring. Ms. Pirro, with more teachers retiring due to COVID, a higher percentage of teachers retiring, does that mean we'll be hit with a higher contribution to the retirement fund for the teachers, or is that not part of the equation?
It affects on the retirement side's end, not on the district's end. We pay contribution for salary paid. We don't pay on the retiring side of it. That'll hit the pension system.
Okay. Good.
Dennis, where are we as far as teachers that have put in for retirement? Do we know?
Yep.
Joe, go ahead.
Yeah, sure. So currently, we have 3 teachers and a school nurse who have put in for retirement. The deadline was January 15th for the incentive for first eligible. The next deadline is March 15th for to be able to cash out your sick days. So if there are any other teachers out there who are looking to retire, March 15th is the next time they would let us know. Eligible retirees for that time, there's not a lot. There's a handful that are out there that we're waiting on, but to date, we have 4 current members who are retired.
And we have a healthy pool of applicants for replacements as appropriate?
Yeah, I think, a lot of time, for some of these subject areas, combination, special ed, science are challenging, but for the most part, like Dr. O'Hara stated, when we put out a posting, we get hundreds of applicants, certified applicants for the positions.
Great. Do we have any mandatory or preferred callbacks?
Yes, we do have a healthy list in certain subjects where we do have staff who are on a preferred eligibility list.
So would some of these retirements be filled by people who are familiar with the district that are on that list?
It very well could be, not necessarily maybe in the retirements. We're still working some things out, but it could be, yes, but not all of them.
Great. Okay, any other new business from anyone? Any new business from administration, Dr. O'Hara?
None.
Questions and comments from the community? Dr. Murphy, did we have any questions?
Sure, I'll go through them.
Sure.
The first entry is not a question, it's feedback from Maureen Napolitano sharing that she's not in favor of block schedule at the high school. I'm going to forward her comments to Mr. Cook and the high school team. There's no questions there. The second entry is from Mrs. Barr. With Chick-fil-A opening soon, are there any safety precautions in place for Hauppauge students who walk to eateries along Route 111? She's concerned about foot traffic across Route 347. Has the town of Smithtown addressed this concern as well?
Jackie, would you be the person to know that answer?
I will look into, I do not have an answer regarding any of the eateries and our foot traffic. I mean, we do have often the crossing guards at certain points, but not along that road there.
Right.
We don't have any crossing guards further north than Branchinelli's.
Right.
Do we have a contingent of kids that go all the way up 111?
Well, our students are not allowed to leave the buildings during the school day, so I don't know how far. Listen, as it is right now, my guess would be they don't really walk that far, but Chick-fil-A is pretty popular, I think, with the age group, so there's a possibility, I would imagine.
Yeah, and plus, to Mrs. Barr's point, there's definitely going to be increased traffic. If, when they opened the one in Comac, the line was out onto Comac Road. Mm-hmm. So Jackie, if you could look into that a little bit and maybe report back to us at our next meeting.
Will do.
Dr. Murphy?
Yep, Mrs. Barr asked another question along with some commentary. Actually, there's a few questions here. I'm going to read them all. They're all related. Why is Whipperwill closing? Was the decision voted on by the public? What happens when and if new residential buildings happen in the industrial park and elsewhere? What about population increases? What if something happens to a remaining district property? You are a very positive, proactive board that has done wonderful things for the district. Please reconsider the sale of Whipperwill. So it's all about Whipperwill.
Jackie or Dennis, do you guys mind fielding those?
Sure. I'll take it. Whipperwill isn't yet closing. What we've shared so far in public session has that we're investigating potential candidates to purchase the property to see how, the dollar value that would help us or not. The current building as it stands is in need of some repair, of great cost to the district to repair it. We do have current tenants in the building. So we're just investigating at this point to see what viable option, if any, makes sense for the district to move forward. That's kind of where we are. It is not closing. It is not unsafe. We are currently still in there. Administration is in there, as well as facilities, ground storage, transportation, and some tenants, as I mentioned. What else is in there? Don, did I answer any of the other pieces of that question?
I think
you said any initial sale is subject to voter referendum.
Correct, right. So as we investigate this, we're looking at potential different developers that might give us different options for the location of what they would want to do with it. However, if we want to move anything forward, it would all be subject to public referendum. The community would be asked to vote on its sale. So we could not move forward as a district with any sale of the property without public support.
Yep, you covered it, Jackie. Thank you.
Okay.
Mrs. Barrett, Christine Barry asks, are we actively looking for a replacement for Dr. Probst?
The answer is yes. Dr. Probst and Dr. O'Hara are actually spearheading that search, and we'll report back as soon as we. No, you don't have to vacuum. Yeah, close the door. Yeah. Sorry. Dr. O'Hara and Dr. Probst are undertaking the replacement search for Dr. Probst.
Okay, there are 4 questions related to Dr. O'Hara's contract.
Okay. Mr. Barnowski, are we permitted to answer questions concerning Dr. O'Hara's contract?
No, I mean, we do not comment on personnel matters of any employee for the protection of the employees themselves. We do not wish to in any way, cast judgment or comment upon anything involving employee contracts, and that's the rule across the board.
Okay. Any other questions?
There's one more question from Natalie Fernandez, who asks about middle school parents being able to submit their choice for their children to attend in person or remotely for the 4th term. I will answer that and ask Mrs. Fernandez to get in touch with Mrs. O'Connor. And that goes for any parent who has a question related to in-person or remote. If you reach out to the building principal, they can help you.
Great. Any other questions?
That is the last one.
Okay. Hey, Dr. O'Hara, in the beginning of the year, we had the principals come in a rotation to talk about how things are going in their schools. Can we renew that when we get back after break and just get an update? Put them in a cycle of 2 or 3 during a meeting?
Sure. If you'd like, we could do elementary on one evening and secondary on another. It would be 3 one night and 2 another night.
Yeah, that would be, is that okay with the board? I think it would be nice to hear how things are going. Yes? Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions, Don?
Nope. No other questions.
Okay. With that, I'll take a motion for an adjournment. Our next meeting is February 23rd, 2021, which is also the first meeting of the budget season. So Jackie will be on her toes and ready to go. Mr. Scrito makes the motion. Mr. Fortmeyer seconds. Any discussion on adjournment? Mr. Barchet votes aye. Mr. Scrito?
Aye.
Mr. Scrito votes aye. Mr. Fortmeyer?
Aye.
Mr. Fortmeyer votes aye. Dr. Craffa?
Aye.
Dr. Craffa votes aye. Mr. Kiley?
Aye.
Mr. Kiley votes aye. Mr. Buscarino?
Aye.
Mr. Buscarino votes aye. Mrs. Weisberg?
Aye.
Mrs. Weisberg votes aye. The motion for an adjournment is passed 7-0. There is no executive session tonight. Everyone be safe, have a nice vacation, and we'll see everyone after the break. Good night.
Good night.
Good night, everyone.
Good night, everybody.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night.